Hey everybody, welcome to Geeksvana Live. Thank you very much for joining me this evening, slightly later than our normal shows, but I had a lot on today, as it were. So tonight we're going to be talking about the DJI 4G cellular dongle and whether or not it can be used legally here in the UK, particularly by us mere mortal hobbyists, I suppose, is really one of the actual focus points this evening. Now, as many of you are aware, DJI is now listing their 4G cellular dongle for sale in the UK. It's up now for pre-order for the end of July. This, as well as recent reviews now appearing aimed at the UK market, has led to many people to message me and email me to ask me if the use of a dongle here in the UK is legal on your drone. Now, it's important to state early that this is not a video talking about BV loss and the product allowing you to fly far away. Those rules are actually nothing to do with the content being discussed tonight. The CAA hardly even get a look in, frankly. First, the quick answer. Then we can delve into some of the facts provided to Geeksvana directly from the regulator in this instance, which is actually Ofcom. Simply purchasing the dongle, sticking a data SIM card in there and flying it is not legal. There are several hoops to jump through first. This is not a product intended really for the hobby or recreational marketplace at all. It is something intended for the enterprise market, where companies have gained the required licenses and permissions, of which there are actually multiples required. So that's the quick answer for anybody that's watching this from TikTok. We have reached out to Ofcom, who are the regulator involved in anything in terms of transmissions here in the UK. As they put it, Ofcom is the regulator for the communications that we use and rely on each day. The answer came back as follows, and I'm going to share some of the tiles here with the wording on so that you can find it a little bit easier to follow along. So first up, anyone installing so this is from Ofcom to Geeksvana. Anyone installing and using the DJI dongle must have a UAS operator license from Ofcom for its use to be legal. It is a condition of the license that the user must get explicit written permission from the mobile networks they wish to use that. They have consented to the use of an airborne terminal on their network. For example, BTEE has its own specific mobile drone business that provides specialist SIM cards. We'll come on to that. Another requirement is that the drone must not be able to transmit or connect to the 2.6 gigahertz mobile band due to interference risks to air traffic control radars in the adjacent 2.7 gigahertz band. In most cases, this can be achieved by the mobile network. So essentially what they're saying there is that you need a license to be able to do this. And that license is from Ofcom. And you also need a specialist SIM card, which are sold by the companies. And we're going to come on to that in just a moment and talk about those kind of things. But again, as it states there, you cannot just buy one of these products, stick a giff-gaff SIM card in there and go off flying. It's simply not legal. If someone purchases a standard mobile SIM card, places it into the dongle and uses it without having a written airborne agreement from the mobile network they are using, then this is illegal. In the case of using a SIM card belonging to an MVNO, so Tesco, giffgaff, etc., the permission must come from the network they are using, i.e. VMO2, because of course a lot of these networks are actually piggybacking on someone else's network and selling the data, etc., at a discount. For more information, look at the sections 3.4 to 3.11 on the UAS operator license guidance, which we'll come on to. The reason for these restrictions, as well as the risk of interference to ATC radars, is that the mobile networks are not currently designed to handle airborne traffic. If used airborne, the mobile terminal can see and try to connect to multiple base stations, causing congestion and performance issues for the network. So this can actually impact the entire network in your area. This isn't the case when used on the ground. The worldwide mobile equipment standard is being developed by 3GPP, include drone functionality, but these are likely to take a number of years before they're rolled out on UK networks. And they provided this little graph here, this little graphic to show, again, a mobile actually linking to several of the networks and obviously the disruption that could potentially cause. Concerning the second point on operation, this is a responsibility of the CAA, as you'd expect, and all drone operators must comply with the air safety requirements as in place. The license from Ofcom only covers the authorization of the equipment under the Wireless Act 2006 and does not supersede any air safety or airspace management regulations, as you would expect. any regulator to want to put a disclaimer on a disclaimer there, wouldn't you? So essentially, you need two things, and most hobby recreational operators are not going to be able to get these things. Basically, the first thing you need, and I'll show you the page here, is basically a Spectrum for Unmanned Aircraft System UAS license from Ofcom, and this basically allows you to start using different frequencies than is the standard. Essentially, the CE marking on the back of your drone, you know, the CE FCC markings that we always talk about with the FCC hack, etc. Essentially, this license will provide you other frequencies to use. The idea of this is to actually allow companies to do essentially BVLOS flying, that type of thing, and to use a more reliable network, such as, of course, 4G, or another frequency to allow them to do things like railway line inspections, that kind of thing. We did actually do a show on this last year when this was, or even perhaps even the year before, but when this was first announced, we did go through this document on a show back then. Which was, it was an interesting one. But again, this is obviously intended for use on the enterprise side of things, shall we say. And as it's saying there, from the point of view of the prohibition on the use of 2.6 gigabands to protect air traffic control radars. And again, that's something, again, I don't know. The DJI dongle, in terms of the transmissions, etc., DJI are careful not to sell the product where it's completely illegal, where you cannot get a license or permissions or that type of thing. Hence, I believe it still can't be used in the US at the moment, or even purchased from a US IP address. So with this, I'm not sure whether or not DJI are handling that part of it. I have no idea from that point of view, but obviously it is an important side of it. So you need the license. That's the first thing. But the next thing they were talking about there is you need to be able to have the permission of the network. And companies are starting to bring out their own drone sim products, and BT have their own drone business, which of course they're working with Altitude Angel as well as partners on their corridor. And yeah, as it says here, this is the drone sim from BT, and it's a service that's specifically built for use at altitude, under which will provide an appropriate account with associated SIM cards and confirm the necessary permission for you to connect to the EE mobile network. So that is obviously the primary network, and essentially having one of these SIMs gives you that written permission to use the cell phone network itself, the mobile network itself. Now, one of the conditions of actually gaining one of these, which if we go down to here, number 4, eligibility. In order to be able to apply for permission to use cellular connectivity at altitude, which is what this SIM card is designed for, you must have obtained a license from Ofcom. So we've kind of got like an interconnecting thing there a little bit, from the point of view that Ofcom want you to have a license, but also to have to ensure that you've got permission of the network, and those networks selling the products then of course make sure that you've got a license. So there isn't, unfortunately, a way around it of just buying the SIM card and trying to get away with it, basically. One of the things that you should keep in mind is that, of course, that kind of activity on the mobile network is something which can be tracked and traced, and will probably throw up error codes as well if you are actually causing some kind of overload on the system, and that kind of thing, basically. So yeah, now I will put links to the BT Business Sim, Drone Business Sim, and the Ofcom in the description after the show, so you can go away and have a look at those yourself. But in summary, my advice is very strongly that you do not simply purchase one of these, put a random SIM card in, and without an Ofcom license and without the correct SIM card, frankly. Remember, we're not talking about an amateur radio license here. We're talking about a specific license, UAS license from Ofcom. And some people call it the ham license. We're not talking about one of those. This is a very specific license from Ofcom. Also, as the drone community can be one to have a love-hate relationship with legislation and rules, shall we say, I wanted to also point out that the breaches described here are serious and would certainly result in serious criminal prosecution. We're not really talking about, flying your drone a little bit beyond visual line of sight, or some of the other rules that we often talk about rebelling against and within the community. This is serious. If you're found doing this, especially as there are ways to achieve it through licenses and the correct SIMs, etc., it's serious. I wanted to ensure that anyone watching the reviews or reading about the product on the DJI site didn't get caught out. Of course, flying with a 4G link would be pretty simple in terms of tracking, and the ways that it can go wrong are very many, unfortunately. So let's head over to the chat and see what you're all saying about this. Thank you again for joining me this evening, especially as we've already been on last night. Let me have a look here. I think we had a question actually from Amok, and it was regarding, I promised I would mention it during the show, the Geeksvana, perhaps during the stream, you could clarify the role of the spotter and what sort of proximity they need to have to the pilot. Yeah, basically they are replacing your eyes and your eyes only, so they need to be stood next to you. A spotter, should you need one for whatever reason, that's it. You can't have a spotter stood, a line of spotters. This is the UK. You can't have a line of spotters lined up for 3 miles, or a spotter here and a spotter behind a building over there, etc. That's basically not up to legislation or indeed CAA advice. The spotter needs to be stood next to you. It's categoric, using only their eyes, basically. You can gain BVLOS permissions from the CAA, so you need to get an operational safety case via the CAA, which can cost a few £1,000s just for the permission itself, let alone the research and the work to actually produce the documents required, and the insurance and everything else like that. And then you could potentially get one where you can have the operators linked by walkie-talkie and that kind of thing. But again, you're talking about a very specialised part of things. And John Burns is actually confirming the same thing there. So there you go. Outtime Flies says, I can understand people wanting to use it in high Wi-Fi interference areas, as I've had times where there are drones been in VLOS but still have rubbish connection, but it's still hammer to crack a nut in that situation. Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. This is something that simply isn't designed to do the kind of things that we're looking for. Sneaky Swino's asking if these are certain drones. Yes, it's at the moment in the UK, it's the DJI Mini 4 and Mini 4 Pro and the Air 3 that these work on. Mixed Banner, hi, good to see you. Let me see if anybody else has got any questions. Dan the Drone Man, the only people I've seen that are talking about the dongle are hobbyists who want to be able to fly to the moon. I haven't seen a single commercial owner talk about it for legitimate uses. Yeah, I think it's something that is actually going to be used, Dan, and there are a few users that I know of on the commercial side that are going to be using this for a few different operations. But it's still although the technology has been around for years, it's still a very new thing here in the UK in terms of gaining access to the network and that type of thing. So as far as I understand it as well, there was an intention that the product would only be sold to commercial enterprise users, but how you regulate that, I've got no idea. As he's saying, the sub 250 gram drones because of the complexity with that. And yet Barclay is saying that there's no dongle available here. Barclay is over in the US. Thank you for confirming that, sir. Looks good. Jay Richards, looks like an easy way to lose a drone, in my opinion. I wouldn't trust it. Yeah, I mean, and I know some of the reviews that have been out recently, different people have had different experiences of it. That's partly because they're using the wrong tech, I would assume, because I would assume that the creators of the videos that I've watched, they don't seem to be using the specialized drone sims and and have a license. Because bear in mind, if you're using this without the correct SIM card, without the correct technology, and therefore you're not interfacing with the mobile network correctly, that mobile network is going to be fighting you all the time. So if you do see people have problems using these things, it's not really a surprise to me. John Burns, what's the difference between a 4G dongle a few hundred feet above and a 4G mast and the SIM card and a mobile phone a few hundred feet below the same mast? Yeah, well, as I was reading on one of these here, the restrictions do actually change in terms of the actual usage and the equipment, how the equipment scans for things, how it deals with things, does change in terms of whether or not it's a ground station or not. So a ground station, as it says here, will work accurately, but it does cause issues in terms of the network and the drone itself, as per this little diagram, actually trying to sign into multiple towers, which can cause congestion, basically. John Coopy saying these rules are serious with a little, yes, thank you, John, you little troll. UK Bubblers, I wish this was done yesterday. I wouldn't have purchased yet. Sorry about that. I needed to get my ducks in a row, basically, because there was a little bit of hot potato passing in terms of the agencies that I was going around, and then the policy management team at Ofcom, who are fantastic. The policy manager over there, very, very good at coming back to you with what I feel was a very clear answer that everybody could understand. That unfortunately came through today, but as soon as I had it, I decided to go live with it as I noticed more and more reviews are starting to pop up. Amok Timeflies is answering John, saying the dongle at height may connect to multiple cells, yeah, whereas on the ground it normally just one. Exactly. Donology, Sean, as much as I appreciate it, this feels like it should come from, it does come from Ofcom. These, as unfortunately, people do not do the research, and your average drone flyer, your average user of technology, because it's something, there is a thing where you think because you can purchase something off a website, it must be legal to use. But it's the same as knives in the UK. It's the same as my car can do 155 miles an hour, but of course I can't use it at that. There's no one finding me to tell me that. Obviously, I have to learn that through gaining my license, etc. Now, in terms of Ofcom, all of this has been published by them. Now, in terms of how regulators get their message across to everybody, well, that's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. But if you want the information, it is out there. I got that information within 24 hours. Dan the Drone Man says, it says on the DJI site that you need to speak to the mobile operator before using this. Yes, it does. People are just visiting the site and clicking buy without reading any of the bullet points beneath the image. Yes, it is a difficult one. Clive Clark Watson, evening Sean, thanks for the to my suggestion in the comments last night about update on the flyers. Yes, Clive had a very good idea. We've actually got some new, and Clive there is talking about the anti-Karen leaflets, basically. The leaflets you can hand out to police and to other people walking up that explain that you are registered, that you're flying legally, that type of thing, and giving them QR codes to go to various places to verify it. So you don't have to stop flying, basically, is the idea. The police one is intended to help you in case the police officer doesn't know the rules. And actually, the police one is approved by the police, actually, as well, which is fantastic. But Clive came up with a very good idea for an addition to that leaflet, which we are adding. And we've actually also got, it'll be coming out this week, other leaflets which are in French and Spanish and explain the fact that you have registered correctly in the EASA area, and the other side, one side's English, one side's French, and obviously Spanish, depending on the leaflet. So yes. Amok Timefly, so these tubers that say they use spotters along the route really paid thousands for that. I'm not being calling call out or anything. Yeah. And that's the thing as well with this kind of information, I'm not calling anybody out either. I'm not calling out any channels that have done anything on this whatsoever. All I am trying to do, I have seen a lot of people stating, great, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to do that. And I've seen lots of posts on Facebook and other social media where people are talking about buying this and going out and using it. Now, they're not necessarily saying, I'm going to fly 10 miles or anything, because it might be people that do live, as UK Bubblers was saying, that do live in a poor signal area, or there's some other reason why they don't have a good signal on their drone normally, and they want to use this. And because it hasn't been explained in the reviews so far and in any of the literature so far, it's something that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. Dronology, have you asked DJI for a comment on this? We don't need to, mainly because they do state on their terms when you purchase it that you do need the permission of the network provider. And of course, if you do that and you go across and you get the permission of someone like BT, etc., by using one of their cards, they'll also tell you their point 4 that you need to have an Ofcom license. So there's kind of a catch-all system there if people are following what they're supposed to do. Yeah, Suffolk Air Adventures, it seems a strange move by DJI to market such a device. When you think of the issues they're having in the US, it will only antagonize FAA and CAA. And that's one of the reasons in terms of end user that I wanted to get this message out there. And I would ask you to share this message out there and to get it out there. You can do what you want. As per usual, I give you the information and then you can do whatever you guys want to do. But yeah, I agree with that. But actually more in terms of that if everybody starts using these and we start getting bad press reports of, an ATC getting interfered with, or there being some other kind of signals that are interfered with, and people being caught using the 4G network, flying their drone, goodness knows how far away, then that is going to hurt the hobby 110%. We all complain about auditors and other things and all these other things that are hurting the hobby. This kind of thing would do, which is why I wanted to get the facts out there, as they didn't seem to be there, basically. Could be for the Ukrainian markets. It's kind of 4G and drones has been something, hi Go Circ, good to see you, has kind of been in drones for a long time. It just hasn't been here in the UK or the US or parts of Europe, mainly because the regulations such as those dealt with by Ofcom, etc., just haven't allowed it, basically. Infinity Gaming, hi, good to see you, sir. Hope you're well. Stopping in to show support. Have a good day, Sean. And you. Hope you're extremely well. Okay, I think that is answering all of the questions. As one person there is saying, don't trust DJI about regulations applying to you. Yes, always find out the rules for yourself. Yeah, apparently the dongle doesn't work all that well in the UK. I think, Gary, the reason that is actually because the SIM being used isn't the specialist SIM. And I think you'll find, actually, if you use the specialist SIM that talks to the network properly, then it will work. I believe it will actually try to fight you using it, basically, which is why I think some people might have that problem. Gary Linnea, probably someone. Yeah, it isn't done how you think it is. It isn't done how you think it is in the movies, John, is the quick answer to that one. Let me have a look here. Yeah, great to about Spanish ones, no problem, Clive. They'll be out this week. There'll be a little video around them as well. But DJI have their own license that we can buy from them to use at the moment. It's a fee. No, Daz. The UAS license is from Ofcom, and that would be between you and Ofcom, basically. And you would need to jump through the hoops that are explained in this 16-page document to gain one. And there's no reason why you couldn't gain one, but it will obviously cost a bit, and there'll be, I can assure you, there'll be a bit of regulation surrounding it in terms of CAA permissions and everything else like that, basically. I'm assuming this 4G dongle will broadcast a highly detailed remote ID. Surely a user utilizing 4G will be visible to authorities. Yeah, I think, Jay, it's a good point to make, and I made it briefly before, but yes, I think it is something that exposes people who are using the drone on the 4G network. There is going to be, there is a trail there, basically. Whereas, of course, if you've only used your drone in the normal way through the CE, then there is less of a trail. This way, then, yeah, I'm sure there is. So yeah. Amok Time Flies, thank you. Sean, your research is amazing. You've been a member for 13 months. Thank you for doing this. Could save some people a lot of money, except UK bubblers. Yes, no, indeed. Excellent. Do I think they should have made it clearer? Yes, I do. I do think they should have made it clearer. However, I don't think it is down to the manufacturer to necessarily tell you. For instance, when I buy a new car, they don't warn me not to drive over 70 miles an hour or that type of thing. The issue here is that if we take the law around driving a car and the requirements for driving and the licensing for driving a car, it's something that we're all taught from a very young age. We're all very excited. You know, when we get to 17, we're going to get to fly our drone. Isn't it going to be fantastic? With drones and the law around drones, it's so fast moving that it's kind of, how does that actually get out to the wider audience? And that's part of one of the things that we're trying to do here at Geeksvana in terms of actually trying to solve that. So yes, I think so. And they have previously shown some responsibility by not releasing them in countries that you simply cannot get permission to use them, such as, I believe you still can't buy this product in the US. So yeah, I think there is some of that. So yeah, John Burns, knowing DJI, there'll be loads of updates to fix various issues. Yes, indeed. Yes, that's right. DJI didn't sell the extended battery in the UK because of something similar, but it wasn't to protect you in particular. I'm not bashing DJI whatsoever here, but it wasn't to protect you. It was actually to protect the then Mavic Mini 3 from the fact that it had a C0 rating, and it could only have a C0 rating in the EASA states if it wasn't available with the larger battery. And unfortunately, as with the getting rid of things like the geofences, etc., DJI kind of bundle us up into the EU and into Europe as well, basically. So some things we get as an advantage, some things are a negative, basically, because of course we don't have the C-class labels here, but we do have the sub 250 rules. Excellent. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. An unexpected and a very quick show. Yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you later in the week. We'll be releasing the new anti-confrontation leaflets, and we've got a few other bits and pieces coming up on the channel as well. So keep an eye out for the notifications. If you're new here, please do hit the subscribe button. And yeah, if you're one of my regulars, hit the like button before you leave. I would really appreciate it. It makes me smile. I promise I'll be smiling whilst the outro is playing. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.